because it's quite literally saying that any ad intra act is necessarily the case. So if the father begets a son, that's necessarily the case. So the father would be dependent on the subject posterior, which he clearly doesn't understand.
Talking about here, we're talking about the relation of begetting, in which the son is described as eternal.
Oh, let me let up Toby real quick. What's up, Toby?
Yo, what's good, man? How you doing?
Doing pretty good, bro. How about you?
I'm chilling. I'm Catholic. I wanted to talk about Palamism and the prompt that you got that says no issue with the Palamite essence energy distinction.
Okay.
I'm just completely upfront. I'm not super duper familiar with Palamism. I've only ever heard it from like Neo-Palamites and like the Diorite
Yeah,
type.
that's not good.
They normally present it in opposition to ADS.
Yeah. Well, they're not. Well, they don't understand what ADS is. They also don't understand what Palamism is. So.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, I'm gonna tell you at least my understanding of Palamism. You
Okay.
let me know where I'm wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? Because again, this is not from my reading of Palamas. This is only from my hearing of people who claim to be Palamites.
Yeah, you're
Um,
good.
so they've got this view that, like, in God, you could talk about his essence or his energies. His energies, or
No.
they are like considered to be his activity, and typically what we consider to be attributes are going to be ascribed to as energies, so power, goodness, etc. The energies are what people participate in divinization or theosis, and the essence is unknowable. So you only ever know God through his energies and not by his essence, which means a different view of the beatific vision and whatnot. So, and then obviously they take the view that the energies are really distinct from one another, but they're identical to God, but they're not identical to the essence. All times, what's wrong?
Yeah, yeah. So, firstly, I mean, you started off saying because when you later on said that the essence is obviously unknowable, I mean, we would kind of take that in relation to like what you said prior when you're talking about, we can talk about the energies and the essence, et cetera, et cetera. Like we don't even believe that. We believe that the essence is beyond signification. So when we do seek to signify the essence, it's just similitude at that point. We're not truly signifying or capturing what's intended to be signified. But I mean, you're pretty much right on everything. But like when you say a real distinction, we wouldn't hold a real distinction in the sense that it would necessitate two res or two real identities that are dissimilar. We believe that there is only one real identity in God. So I guess you'd be right on like.
Would you not say that the persons are really distinct then, or would you say they're only like formal, actual distinct, or?
I would say they're really distinct. I would say they're really distinct. I would definitely
Wouldn't
say
that
they're really
contradict
distinct,
you
but not
saying
in the
that
sense.
there's only one res in God, if real
Yeah.
distinction means multiple res?
No, no. I was saying I wouldn't hold to a real distinction in the sense that it is two res or necessitates two realities or two real identities. But like we would affirm a real distinction in the sense that it's actual, like that it's prior to the intellect,
Yeah.
present in God,
Okay.
fundamentum and ray. Yeah,
So you would say that the energies are distinct prior to any activity of the mind.
yeah,
So that's my issue, where it's like I don't understand. You say that they're distinct from the essence as well, prior to the
yeah,
consideration of the mind.
yeah.
But to me, it's like what does it mean to say that? Like, what kind of distinction are we drawing?
A
Because
form.
obviously it can't be okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, but in my understanding of the formal distinction, the formal distinction is going to be a distinction between two. How can I say this? It's like the distinction is found in the object based upon different formalities or definitions
That's a
within.
SCOTUS view. We don't affirm
Oh,
the
so how
SCOTUS
are we
view of a formal
using?
distinction.
That's the only kind of formal distinction that I understand.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's good. So the SCOTUS formal distinction, kind of like what you were saying, it necessitates multiple formalities. So like when they say that there's a formal distinction between the essence and the energies, when the SCOTUS say that, they're just saying that the essence is one formality, the energy is another formality, and they're dissimilar. Obviously, with a fundamentum in Ray, with a foundation in reality. But we would reject that understanding of a formal distinction on the basis of Saint Gennadius Scholarius because he doesn't believe that the essence, as properly denoted, is a formality. So, in our understanding of a formal distinction, it's pretty much that we can talk about the energies because obviously it's a formality. We can signify it insofar as its formal identity. And in the sense that the energy, or sorry, the essence lacks a formal identity, they would be dissimilar in that sense, which would constitute our distinction.
Wait, say that one more time.
Yeah. So when the Scotists talk about a formal distinction, they're talking about obviously with a foundation in reality, right, in the thing itself. There are two formalities that are dissimilar, or multiple or diversity of formalities that are dissimilar. But when we talk about a formal distinction, we don't believe that it necessitates two formalities. We believe there can be a formal distinction between the essence and the energies, whereas the energies is the only formality. And the distinction would be on the basis of the essence lacking a formal identity, which would basically constitute the distinction.
Oh, so really the main difference you're saying here is that it's not that we have two formalities in the thing, it's that one has a formality and the other doesn't have a formality.
Yeah, that would constitute our distinction between the essence.
So for me, I wouldn't take the energies to be actually, would you say that the essence and the energies are materially identical?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Because they have the same real identity.
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, what I would say is that I'm to be committed to ADS. To me, I would say that you only really need to attribute every real feature or aspect of God to be materially identical to every other real feature or attribute of God. And these attributes only differ in concept or formality or by way of reason. So if you're taking the view that the energies are materially identical to the essence, then I don't think that's necessarily contrary to what do you want to call it, to ADS. However, I would ask, so if the energies are in some real sense distinct from the essence, would you say that the energies subsist in the essence? Like, are they grounded in it? How is it working?
We would say that in a sense, but it just depends what you're talking about when you say grounding, because there are different types of grounding relations.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's not gonna be like a deep grounding relation. Like, it's not gonna be the kind of grounding that like a contingent thing has to God.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could talk about grounding in the sense that like some of your attributes are grounded in your human nature insofar as they flow from it, like your risibility that like flows from your capacity to know things and to find them funny, for instance. And that in that sense, it's grounded in it, where one is in a real sense prior to the other. So would you say that like the essence is in a real sense prior to the energies and the energies flow from it?
In a real sense, I don't know what that means. Because I would say that obviously the energies are posterior. They're an aliquid posterior to the divine essence, obviously in logical ordering. But when you say in a real sense is the essence prior, are you saying that there was a moment where the energies didn't exist?
No, not temporally. But I want to say like in terms of like being, like did the energies have their being in the essence? In a
no. The essence would have. So okay. So I don't know if you're familiar with our view on this, but we believe that existence is an energy. Right.
The existence is an energy.
Yeah, because it means that
it's just an activity. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, the act of existing.
Yeah. Okay, I'll agree with that. Sure.
Right. So when you say does the energies have its existence from the essence, it's a little tricky when you ask it like that. But yeah, we would say that in a sense, obviously the energies being eternal, right? There wasn't a point where the energies were not. But we would say that its formal features were derived in a sense from how God really exists per se, because that's the explanation in that sense for the formalities being how they are. It would be the divine essence. So yeah, in a sense, we would affirm that. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. That makes sense. But you would so you would deny that in reality there's only one energy in God.
There's only one energy. No, I would affirm that there is really just one energy, but we would say that there's a diversity of energy in their formal notation, like what's formally denoted.
Because I was gonna say that it seems that from the councils we can derive that, at least the councils speak about as if there's one divine energy, one divine activity that's obviously united to the human activity of Christ. So you would agree that in some sense there is like, what's the
Yeah.
sense in which there's one energy in God? Because that's what I would say if someone asked me
Yeah.
if I believe there were multiple energies in God. I'd say there's only one energy, God's act
Right.
of existence, and every other energy is just that energy considered in a different considered in a different manner.
Right. Okay. So we would say, yeah, there is one energy in the sense that we're talking about the res as denoted as a reality. So I'll just quote you St. Ignatius Scholaris on this, right? Because he speaks about the way we speak about them being one, and it's not necessarily as the energy being its own res like the divine essence, but rather being something of the thing and in the thing. So we don't talk about the energies being a res in that same sense, but we would say that there is one energy in the sense that we're talking about them being in the divine essence.
Okay. Sure. So the energies are one, basically, insofar as they are all subsisting in one reality.
Yeah, one thing, they're one reality, yeah.
That makes sense. I guess one more thing that I would then want to ask is, so the energies, would you say that they perfect the essence?
No.
And why would you not say that?
Well, St. Ignatius Scholaria says that because God is in no need of perfection. So the means by which God exists. Yeah, so God isn't in a state of needing something to perfect him. He's not in a state of seeking something that he would grasp as perfecting him, because he already exists per se as perfected. So he's not in a need of perfection. And St. Ignatius Scholaris says, I could quote you that if you want.
Well, no, I believe you, but if because the typical way that we would talk about things like existence, goodness, power are as perfections, such that they perfect the thing that they subsist in. So how are we breaking that symmetry? Because I would say that my goodness, wisdom, intelligence perfect me. They perfect my essence.
Yeah, but when you're talking about them being intrinsic and identical to you, it would be perfected of you and perfecting in you. It wouldn't be perfecting you if you're talking about in this sense. It would rather be a perfection of you. So it's something that is the means by which you are perfected, but since you possess this from all eternity, you're just eternally perfected. It's not like it's something where God is in a state of not being perfected, and then the energies come about, and then God is therefore perfected. It's something that always is true of God, that he is in perfection, and something that is of God and in God.
I don't mean like temporally do the energies perfect the essence, but I'm saying that if you want to say that the energies are really distinct from the essence, then it seems like the if the energy just is the perfection and the perfection is distinct from the essence, then in some real sense, the essence must lack the perfection. Lack as in isn't united to it, but lack it just by virtue of what it is.
Yeah, right.
The essence wouldn't have the perfection just by being the essence. It would have the perfection by being united to the perfection, which I think is problematic.
So we would distinguish between what it means for something to be really perfected and formally perfected. So in this sense, I'm assuming you understand our view of when we talk about perfections in God and how they're formalities, right?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So since we don't believe the essence is a formality, we wouldn't say that being formally perfected is something that could be proper of the divine essence. That doesn't mean it isn't perfected, because we think that it's really perfected in the sense that it's the derivative or the means by which the formal perfections come about. So we would say that the divine essence is perfect in the sense, right, that it really did bring about these formal perfections. It just wouldn't be formally perfected because formal notions aren't something that's proper to the divine essence.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saying that the divinity or the divine essence is in a formality is actually pulling a lot of work here. Because I think you would have a lot of issues if you didn't hold to that.
Like what?
Just that I think my argument would follow if the divine essence could be like formally perfected, or if it could have formal notions, then obviously if it's by virtue of what it is, it lacks certain.
I'm saying it couldn't.
Yeah, that's why I think your point.
You said it. So are you saying the essence could be formally perfected?
No. I'm actually
I
I'm
thought that's what you
commending
said.
you. I'm saying that I think your position is the only consistent way to think through this. Um, cool.
I'm confused on the issue though.
What'd you say?
Did you say? Sorry, I thought. Did
No,
you say that there's an
I
issue?
misspoke. You don't have an issue. I'm
Oh,
saying
okay. I see what you're saying.
I'm just saying I see why you don't have this issue.
Yeah, because
Um,
if you take, it seems like if you were to say that the essence, because most of the Neo-Palamites would say that there is some type of way you can formally note the essence or formally denote the essence. If that's the case, and that it's distinguished in its formal notion from the perfections, in a sense, you could say it is not a perfection. The essence is not perfected.
yeah, and
Which
that's what I was trying to say, which seems like an issue to me.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that like obviously you're saying that since it is a formal identity or has a formal identity per se, well then it would be in need of some type of perfection which it's distinct from. But obviously I think that the way to reconcile that is Saint Gennadius Scholarius and his solution 2 and solution 6. I think that
Fair
that
enough.
sorry.
I was just gonna say fair enough. I mean, I think you've convinced me that at least under your presentation of the EED, I mean, there's nothing that I would say that like I starkly disagree with. I was gonna ask then, what are you EO?
Yeah.
Do you have like any issues with like Thomism? I'm just curious.
Not in the sense that Saint Gennadius Scholarios says. Well, okay. So, do you believe that? Because I mean, I would have an issue with how most Thomist posits Saint Thomas Aquinas's distinction between essence and energies, but I wouldn't have an issue with it if you're talking about it as Scholarius defines it, because he defines Aquinas's distinction as just a negation of two res. So, if you would disagree with that and you affirm like most of how the Thomists define it, yeah, I would.
Well, I think that the distinction between God's essence and his energies is just by simply by way of reason.
Simply by way
So
of
me
okay,
and
well,
when I say that, I also mean that um the essence and the energies are the same reality,
mhm,
like prior to the interaction of the mind to consider them as different. Prior to the activity of the mind, the essence and the energies pick out the same existing object.
right. And do you
So there's
distinguish?
a virtual
And
distinction.
would you believe that this distinction is posited between SAN and SA odd?
Is there a Yeah, I would say SAN and SAR
Okay.
are virtually distinct.
Okay. I guess I would have the question when you're talking about the distinction as virtual being posited. Do you think that the distinction can only exist with its definition being contained semantically in the term?
I'm not quite sure what you mean.
So when you say okay, so I'm assuming how you're taking that to be is I believe how it's understood is there being a distinction of reason, right? So
Yeah,
rationis, and then with a foundation, so with a fundamentum in re in the thing
yeah, in
itself.
reality, yeah.
Okay, so
So
I'm saying the semantic containment. So what's semantically true of this specific sentence would be true necessarily of what a virtual distinction is. So where the virtual distinction exists, the definition exists, and vice versa.
yeah, well, yeah,
Okay,
there would.
I would have an issue with that. Yeah.
Okay, what would you say the issue is?
Well, do you believe that there's a possible world where God's alone? There isn't any rationis posterior to God?
Do I? Yeah, I would agree that there's a
So
possible
that wouldn't
world
be a
where
virtual distinction then.
there wouldn't be a virtual distinction in that world. Well, no,
Well,
because
yeah, because
I would take Christopher Thomas Wesky's view that like there are conceptual. He calls them conceptual, but I would say that they're not virtual in the same Thomistic sense, but I think they're roughly analogous. Like there would still be conceptual distinctions in the alone world simply by God's act of considering Himself that would produce differing concepts in the mind of God.
do you think the production of God knowing something is mental, a purely mental image? So it
When
has no
God knows
mapping to
something,
reality?
no. I don't think it produces a purely mental image when God
Okay.
knows something, because in God knowing and being are really identical.
Does God having an image of himself versus him acting produce a purely mental image, or does it produce an image founded posterior to the intellect or prior to the intellect?
So does God? Well, there is no prior to God's intellect.
when I'm saying prior to intellect, I'm saying prior to any active intellection posterior to God. So active intellection posterior to God would be something like creatures.
Yeah, so I would say that like God's knowing of himself would produce only one image in reality, but that image would have various conceptual distinctions in it.
Okay, but I'm saying like, okay, here, let me I guess rephrase what I'm trying to ask. When you say that there would be conceptual distinctions, right, in this alone world. So you're saying that there's no mind posterior to God that could grasp such image and obviously understand it as there being a way in which they're diverse, right? That's a position.
Well, it would be God's mind that sees it. I guess to be fair, though, this is a departure from the traditional Thomist view.
I
Um,
know. I believe
but
I believe that pretty much all the Thomists that talk about distinction now it's a departure from what Aquinas really meant. But obviously that's just my view.
but yeah, I would say that the mind of God would still draw up these conceptual distinctions. Like you could still draw conceptual
Right.
distinctions in the mind of God. Um,
Right. So okay. Right. So it's founded posterior to the act of knowing within God.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right. So that means that it doesn't have a fundamentum, right? If it's founded posterior to the act of knowing, so you
Oh, if
don't
it's
believe that.
founded. Oh, I see. Sorry, when you say
Yeah.
founded, that my bad. I thought so. With the foundation in reality, no, the foundation would just be in the richness of the divinity, right? Such that
Wait.
it
Sorry.
has
Repeat that.
the foundation would be in the richness of the divinity, right? Such that it just by nature contains these different formalities, and then the formalities, I guess, are drawn out by the act of intellection.
Okay. When you see drawn out by the act of intellection, are you saying the are brought in like a mapping relation to reality, like they map to reality?
Yeah, they map to
Okay.
reality, but insofar as they map to reality, they map to the same reality.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes. SAN and SA odd. The distinction between these are mapped to the same res, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and you believe that they are distinct purely. And when I say purely, I'm talking about the distinction between SAN and SA odd wouldn't be a true distinction if there weren't any active intellect or any active intellection that was able to grasp it and obviously produce diverse image or diversity of images. Would you?
Um, the distinction would only be in like the richness of being, such that
Yeah,
being can be
let's talk.
considered to
What is
be
richness of
absolutely or
being?
relatively.
Because I
Yeah,
have
so
my own conception of that. I don't think we're.
by
Yeah.
richness, I'm literally just saying the being contains multiple modes of being or multiple ability capacity to express itself in multiple ways. And I would just take the Aristotelian view that being itself, I guess I'm taking a bit of like an ontological pluralist view here, that being itself can, by very nature, be considered absolutely or relatively, and that would be what grounds like the SAE and the SAI distinction, but they're not distinct qua being, if that
Yeah.
makes
Okay.
sense.
So you don't hold like. Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't really see that as opposed to the distinction I believe in. I mean, it just seems like what you're saying is that there remain as one reality in God, right? SA and SA odd, but
Yeah,
but you still affirm that there is a diversity in which you can posit between the two, right? And this wouldn't simply be in the act of knowing. It would be obviously prior to the act of knowing, which would be something in God.
yeah, but prior to the act of knowing, they aren't diverse. They are just both contained in God, such that they can be
Okay, okay.
expressed.
Let's say prior to the act of knowing, there's no distinction between SAN and SA odd. You would disagree with this, right?
I'm actually not sure.
Well, because that's what it seems like you're saying to me. It seems like you're just saying
Yeah,
that.
so yeah, if by no distinction you mean that prior to the act of knowing, SAN and SAR are both the same reality and don't
I'm not
differ
saying the
in.
same reality. I'm saying so remember, we're talking about the multiplicity in which they can be denoted, right? So
Yeah, but
there's some sense posterior to some act of intellection. There's something that occurs there which would obviously make it the case that we can denote them in a multiplicity of ways. But I'm saying absent of that condition being met, you couldn't denote them in a diversity of ways or a multiplicity of ways in any sense, whether you're talking about in res or whatever, because that's only
yeah,
made
for
or
sure. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. That means prior to the act of knowing, the SAN and SAOT are not diverse in any way. There's not a multiplicity in any sense.
Yeah, because I would say the multiplicity is in concept, but concept is going to be
Right.
posterior to the act of knowing.
Concept is posterior to the act. We're talking about. Are we talking about creatures knowing? You say concepts are posterior to the act.
Concepts in general are going to be like the product of an act of knowing. Concepts follow from knowing.
Okay, when you say it follows from knowing, are you talking about creatures? Because I would say that it follows obviously from God in contemplation, but I don't think that it would follow from creatures in contemplation.
Yeah, no, it follows from God in contemplation.
Okay, I'm talking about. Okay, so look. When I'm talking about the act of intellection, I'm talking about in creatures.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So okay, right.
No,
So
I wouldn't say that but prior to the act of intellection in creatures, we could still find some kind of diversity between SAN and SAD.
This is where okay, right. Yes, this is my distinction. Literally, this is pretty much our distinction between them. We that's literally the result of our distinction. That's how we get our distinction. It's just from that alone. We just say, okay, prior to the intellect, we know that there is some way we can denote diverse modes in God. But obviously, we don't believe that's in res, so it's in some other connotation by which we can denote God as diverse. But obviously, it wouldn't be in res, so there's a sense in which we have to denote them that isn't in res. And that's what we mean by formality. It's the way in which we can denote multiplicity in God without it mapping to how he exists as a real identity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So I don't think we disagree with that.
Yeah, no, I actually don't think we do. This is so interesting for me because like because I'm a convert to Catholicism. So when I was converting, like I didn't know that EOs could even hold this kind of view.
That's what Palamos held to.
Really?
That's what his students held to as well. I can show you Phil Theos Kokinos holds this, and especially literally is definitely Saint Gennadius Scalaris. I mean, that's pretty much where I'm pulling this from. Like everything I said.
I would actually be really happy if that's true because I know my Eastern Catholic brothers venerate Palamas. So
yeah,
I wouldn't. That actually makes me happy because it means that he's not holding to heresy.
He definitely did not teach multiple res in God like most people think. Definitely not.
All right. Well, I mean, fair enough, dude. I dropped you a follow. I don't disagree on anything. So I mean, I'll probably just drop down now.
All right, bro.
All right, bro. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too, man. God bless. But yeah.